Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Oh, Christy's here.
Yeah, I am.
Christy's
Hi.
here. Hey, Christy.
Hi, Matt. Hi. I'll turn on my camera just very temporarily. I'm hang on. I'm cooking right now, so it's just really good scene.
Nice. Little dinner, a little info session.
Yeah. Why not?
Thanks
Kill
for
two birds
coming.
with one stone. Of course.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure.
I
All right,
think,
I'm gonna turn off now.
yeah, okay. See ya. Enjoy cooking. And I think the info session will be pretty much things you already know, but Zane will be presenting, so maybe he'll call on you for a little anecdote.
Maybe.
Oh dear.
Anyways, I'll say hello to everyone joining. We'll start in just a minute here as we're admitting more people. Thanks very much for attending our, I guess, third day of info sessions and our fourth or fifth session ever. We've done it virtually. Usually at this time we are out at your universities, and quite frankly, I miss doing that. But of course, with these times, this is how we're doing it. Yeah, typically I might be out with Zane in London doing info sessions out there, or Gwen in Ann Arbor. And so, yeah, while we missed that, we were really excited to be able to do these virtually. So thank you all for taking time out of your day, your morning, like it is here in Los Angeles, or your evening over in the UK, or wherever you are. We will get started in just a minute here. As a reminder, as I put in the email, we'll be monitoring the chat for answering questions, but as Zane will soon explain, who will be leading the presentation, we were going to try to restrict questions to the specific aspects of the program based on where Zane's presentation is at. That'll just make it easier. And then as Gwen and I are monitoring the questions, we might answer some directly in the chat that are simple, but if we think there's something that's really important that Zane or any of us should talk about, we will bring that up at certain points in the presentation. So if you ask a question, you're like, why isn't it being answered? We'll bring it up and we'll try to get to all of them. So thanks in advance for your patience and understanding on that. And without further ado, I'll introduce myself and then hand it off or introduce Gwen as well and hand it off to Zane. I'm Matt, program director for Coming Out Japan. Have done this program, the Global English Camp, for 5 years since its inaugural cohort in 2015. And really, obviously enjoyed my time every summer. And as Zane has started the PowerPoint, first and foremost, we like to say to sign up for the newsletter if you haven't, because that's the best way to stay updated, not just on our program, but other opportunities in Japan, other internships, things like that. But yeah, real quick, my introduction, I'm a teacher outside of this job as well. And the one thing I always say when people ask, why did you return? Why did you stick around working and running this camp? Is because of the tremendous impact the students have on me. It's just 5 days with your students. You get new students each week, as Zane will explain. And on the fifth day, the fulfillment I felt, and really you could see a tangible, how you impacted the students is tangible to you on the last day, seeing that transformation over the week. And while I taught a full year of world history in junior high school in Los Angeles and questioned my impact on my 200 or so students, in Global English Camp at the end of just 5 days, I do not question that impact. It truly is a special program, truly is inspiring. And of course, there's great people like Zane and Gwen and everyone that do this, and Christy and everyone that do this program every year. So that's why I'm here. And I'll hand it off to Gwen before Zane.
Hi, I'm Gwen. I am the Director of Design and Technology at Come On Out Japan, and I did the program in 2019 as an intern, or as we call them, mentors, and I loved it so much that I came back. I was planning on doing 2020, but obviously that had to get moved over to 2021, so I'm excited you're all here, and I hope you learned something from this, and feel free to ask any questions you have. Thanks.
Thank you both. And I guess it's my turn. So I'm Zane. I was an intern or a mentor for the program in 2018. I then returned in 2019 as a leader. And since then, I've continued to work with Common Out in various programs, and including this one coming up. So we'll start the presentation now. First thing first, sign up for the newsletter. It's a great way to keep updated with all the kind of information that we send out. We only send emails twice a month, so you don't have to worry about spam. And of course, your email is safe with us. We don't sell that off to anyone either. It's a great way to see other seminars that we might hold, blog posts from past interns, offers on TEFL certificates, and updates on COVID. So in particular, just to kind of bring attention to how that will work. Of course, there's a lot of uncertainty regarding the situation, but practically speaking, we are regularly checking updates, often with our co-partners in Japan, and I'll talk a bit more about them a bit later. We'll be following the Tokyo Olympics protocols. So roughly speaking, if the Olympics are running, we will be as well. If the Olympics have decided it's not safe enough, then we will not be running the program. And again, if the program is not held in 2020 due to COVID, there will not be a remote version. So we've had questions about this before. Instead, the program will just be held in 2021. And for any successful applicants this year, you will automatically get accepted onto next year's program, provided that you are still available and still interested. So there's no need to apply again if you've already been accepted this year. And in fact, if you have any other reasons for wanting to defer the program, even if the program is running, as long as your plane ticket has not yet been booked, you can defer it to next year as well. So we're pretty flexible regarding that. Basically, as long as you haven't bought, you're paid for your plane ticket yet, the option is still always there. And just again, newsletter, sign up for that. So for today's info session, just to give you a summary of what's to come, a quick introduction and overview of the camp, who we are and who we work with, and I'd like to talk about the application process there. So kind of chronologically, what's the next step? We'll also talk a bit about orientation and training camp, so the first thing that happens when you arrive in Japan, and we'll break that a bit for some quick questions and answers. We'll then talk about the camp as a whole, so what happens during these 4 weeks that you'll be there for, other logistics and subsidies. So if you have any questions about money, save it until then, because we'll talk about some stuff as well. So we'll have another Q&A then, and then we'll talk a bit more about kind of outside the classroom, the bigger picture, and other open floor questions as well. So just to get started, we have this nice promo video. I won't share that with you right now, but it is available on our main page, of which the URL is going to appear in the chat in 3, 2, 1. There it is. Thank you, Gwen. Thank you, Matt, both of you. Knew I could count on you both. So yeah, feel free to have a look at that, and you'll see this nice video that we have for you. So now I'd like to give a bit of an overview of the camp as a whole. So it is a 5-week unpaid internship in Japan. It's aimed at university students and recent graduates. So if you've already graduated, this is still available for you. If you're still a first year, this program is still available for you as well. And this is a bit wordy. To facilitate the improvement of expressing opinions in English and impact students' discovery of their individual life missions, which is this nice flowery language for basically saying you'll help students in Japan to improve their English speaking skills. Interns, so hopefully you in the future, will facilitate themed discussion sessions in a classroom setting. You'll usually have about 2 to 7 Japanese, maybe middle school, high school, university students with you, and you'll work in a whole classroom of anywhere from 20 to 50 people. This will depend a lot on where you are and when during the program it is. The program as a whole also offers optional activities throughout the program, after classes and also on the weekends. So, and although it's an unpaid internship, the sponsor provides certain expenses for you as well, which will help to cover food and travel and so on. So more details on this will come a bit later in the info session when we talk about kind of logistics and money. The exact dates for the program have yet to be decided. However, we do have tentative dates. I'll explain this in a second. So for Group A, it's 10th July to 20th August, and Group B will start and end a week later, so 17th July and 27th of August. This is partly due to anyone who has other commitments. So maybe you're working on a part-time job or a full-time job or other internships, and you're still working all the way until the 15th of July and can't make it to Group A's times. Or maybe your university starts the autumn or fall semester a bit early, and so you can't stay all the way until the 27th of July, but maybe you can stay until the end of the 20th of August, excuse me. Maybe you can't stay until the end of the 27th of August, but you can stay until the end of the 20th of August. And so just to talk about that a bit more, our whole cohort of about 200 interns will then be split roughly into these two groups. Group A, which starts and ends a bit early, and Group B, which starts and ends a bit late. Inside those groups, you'll also be put into teams of about 10 people or so. And these teams will include a leader who has already been on the program, who usually already has some experience leading as well, and other returning interns who, just like myself, Gwen and Matt, have enjoyed it so much the first time, want to come back and contribute more. And these teams that you're in, of about 10 or so people, will be who you'll usually stick with throughout the program. So week by week, you'll more or less be working alongside the same team of interns. So these are some of the numbers that we had from 2019. In total, we had about 178 interns. We had 27 returning interns. We worked with about 25 universities across the US, Canada, UK, and also I think a few outside as well. And we also worked in 57 different venues in Japan. So it's really nice how we're connecting all different people across the world and all different people across Japan as well. So a little bit more about us and who we are. We are Common App Japan. We are the program administrator. We'll work with your applications that you send. We'll do the first round of interviews. We'll also be working with you for the onboarding process. We'll also work about the program retreat. We'll organize some of the activities, and we'll also be your ground support throughout the program. So your first point of contact will be with us, Common App Japan. And we're also your primary intern contact as well in Japan and the US. One of the biggest companies that we work with for the program is Toshin, or Nagase Brothers, and they are our program sponsor. They organize the second round of interviews, and they also oversee the daily classes. So most of the things that happen day to day in the classes themselves will be with them. They also organize the curriculum and recruit all of the Japanese high school, middle school, and university students. Nagase Brothers and Toshin is a big company who own a variety of what's called cram schools across Japan. And so this is where Japanese students will often go to for extra tuition classes. And they're a very well-known name across the country. Typically, if you go to kind of any random person on the street, they'll probably have at least heard of Toshin, if not be affiliated with them somehow. And kind of the third big partnership of this group is Common Up, another program sponsor, and they deal with a lot more of the housing, transportation. They organize language classes and other activities as well. Another source of ground support, emergency contacts, and reimbursements. So a lot more of the pastoral side of things. So these are kind of the big players of this game, as it were. So now I'll kind of go through chronologically. So what happens right now? Well, right now, you apply. We have this early phase, which will be until the end of the 30th of November. November does not have 31 days, it has 30 days. And applications will be, if you are accepted for an interview, you'll be notified by January 15th. And accepted interns will be notified by February 15th. So this is a little bit longer than our usual times due to the COVID situation and having to organize between us and Toshin and so on. Everything just takes a little bit more time. So we appreciate your patience regarding that. The early phase really is where you want your application to be. Once the early phase ends, so once the 30th of November ends, we take that big pile of applications and we just start rolling through it. And if you are accepted in this phase, you are through. And I think in previous times, about 75% of successful applicants came in this early phase. So we have that second regular phase as well, from December 1st to December 31st. And so, people do still get accepted when they apply in this time bracket, but your chances are just a little bit less because other people have already been accepted. And we also have our waitlist phase. So due to the nature of the program and how flexible we are in trying to allow people to defer entries if they choose to, and so on, we also do have a pretty chunky waitlist as well. So if you just about didn't make it in time, but you're still an accepted applicant, or we still would like to have you on the program, you would be put on the wait list, and it's just a case of waiting until someone else perhaps decides that they have another internship that they'd like to do, or a job that they want to do instead. So that's the application phase as a whole. Once that's done, orientation and training. So you arrive in Japan, either maybe the 10th of Japan if you're in Group A, sorry, the 10th of July? I've got myself all muddled up now. You arrive on the 10th or the 17th, depending on if you're Group A or Group B. And based off of past years, you'll be staying at a hostel in Asakusa. So kind of really right in the heart of Tokyo. You have a weekend to kind of help recover from jet lag. And you also get to know each other a little bit. So leaders will typically lead excursions around Asakusa for a bit. We also have a disaster training. So, of course, Japan has a lot of natural disasters. It's just a part of life, how it is over there. And so you get a bit of training on how to react to these situations. Thankfully, previous years, we haven't had any sort of serious earthquakes or tsunamis or anything of the sorts. And hopefully it won't happen again this year as well. But just in case, it's always good to be prepared. And of course, we have this lovely big welcome party, which you can see on the pictures over here. On Sunday, we then move into housing, and then we lead into the first week of training. And this is kind of the main time where you'll be with your whole group, either Group A or Group B. Training will take place in our main Shinjuku building, our headquarters of sorts. So again, right in the heart of Tokyo, right in the center, right in the middle. And this is where we spend most of that week going over the curriculum. So I forgot my textbook, but hopefully Matt or Gwen, thank you very much. Every year we follow through a textbook, and I'll go through kind of the weekly activities a little bit later. But previous year's interns, or leaders in this case, will then be running through the textbook with you. So we'll show you kind of all the first-hand experience of how the book will work, best tips to work throughout the week, and so on. And also other options as well. So you're not too restricted on the textbook as well, and I'll talk a bit more about that a little bit later. So I think that was our first kind of phase. Do we have any questions so far? Remember that coming still is a bit more about the camp itself. So I'll talk a bit more about how the week works, and logistics and subsidies and outside the classroom and so on. So if you have questions regarding that, feel free to just kind of hold off on that for now.
Yeah, thank you, Zane. Well, you're doing a great job. We only got a couple questions so far, so I think we're good. Caroline asked if 2020 accepted interns are able to are going to be part of the 2021 team. Yes, so they are able to defer, as Zane mentioned. We're not entirely sure of the number. There were 200 accepted interns last summer, so we expect about half of those to be available, maybe a little less for this upcoming summer. So we'll provide an update as soon as we know and confirm with them. Jess asked, will we be staying in the hostel you mentioned for the duration of the program? No, just orientation, just that first weekend Zane talked about in Asakusa. Then you'll move to your housing. Upfront costs in regards to the application. Mariano, no upfront costs when you apply. During the onboarding process, if this program goes through next summer, when you're buying your plane ticket, you pay a safety deposit of 500 USD or equivalent to our travel agency, and then we return 400 of that after completing the program within 45 days. So 100 USD is the onboarding fee. So not the application fee, the onboarding fee covering that.
And we'll come to that again as well later if the numbers just kind of flew past you a bit.
Yeah, exactly. And then Chloe, how can we stand out in our application? We'll usually do those questions at the end. I'll give my vague cliche answer right now, which is we are looking for a diverse group of candidates. So we don't want Japanese majors only. We don't want education majors only. We want a passion for teaching. We want flexibility and adaptability, like Zane talked about, because this is a program in another country and you might be moving around. He'll get into that later. We want patience is important, and teaching a language in general, right? So things like that. But do not worry if you don't have a Japanese experience. That's not required at all, or education experience, just a passion. Does it impact your application if you've gone to Japan previously? Nope. Most of our interns have not been to Japan or do not speak any Japanese, which is great, but either way is fine with us. And if you have been, talk about it in your application. Non-native speakers accepted. So it's native level English. So English does not have to be your first language. You don't have to be a native English speaker, just at that native level. And we determine that in the application and the interview. How important are grades when applying? GPA is considered only to the extent that we want to make sure you're in good standing at your university. A 4.0 versus a 3.0 GPA is not going to affect, one or the other when applying. But we just want to make sure everyone's in good standing. How many people usually apply? Zane will get to that later too. Remember how he said apply early? Well, I'll say it again right now. Last year we got about 1,200 applications, so you can imagine the acceptance rate's about 15%, but it's much higher, as Zane said, during the first round. And Gwen just answered just the second question. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, apply if we already have experience teaching Japan. Yes, of course. And then can you apply if you do not have your passport yet? Yes, just notate that on your application, and just make sure to have it, if you are accepted, Amanda, by the time when we get to onboarding. So in a few months. So, if you are super interested, you should get that settled, but it's not required when you apply. All right, I think I covered it all.
Fantastic. Thank you all for all of your questions. And of course, we'll update our info sessions for future sessions as well. So all of these questions are helping to make our sessions better as well. So thank you. And I guess we'll continue. So here's our sample schedule. It's a big old spreadsheet and we'll run through it a bit slowly. So the program of teaching is you will spend 4 weeks of teaching, because the first week that you'll be in Japan is for training. Each week will basically look the same. You'll be working roughly from 9:30 to 5:30, though you might be able to finish a bit early depending on how long the overall review is. And in the first day, it's all about getting to know each other. So it's all about opening up to the students, getting the students to open up to you, talking with each other, doing a variety of speaking exercises, and one of the biggest aspects is the university fair. So as part of the program, interns will make presentations talking about their university, and this will work in different ways in different venues, but you'll be talking primarily, hopefully, to only a small group of students who will be interested in coming to your university or interested at just how universities are at different countries. So in the UK, or more even specifically in London, compared to, say, Cambridge, compared to Harvard and MIT, and so on. Day 2, you'll be talking about your major or your field of study, or your life mission as well. So in addition to having university-based presentations, interns or mentors also give presentations about what their chosen topic of study is, as well as what they would like to do in the future. And this kind of helps to shape up the students' ideas and gets them to start thinking about what they want to do in the future as well. Another major aspect is presentations that the students will be giving to us. So in here, because this is based off of last year's, we talk about the Tokyo 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Of course, that won't be quite as much a focus this year, but we also have a variety of other potential things to discuss and present on as well. The third day will be quite similar to the second day. Again, lots of presentations from the interns and mentors about who they are, what they study, and what they want to do in the future, with lots of speaking exercises as well. And again, more presentations. In this case, the students will be focusing on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are a collection of goals which you will very much get used to by the end of the program, having talked about them for 4 weeks straight. And this is just to get the students thinking about the broader picture, thinking about the world around them as a whole. On the fourth day, again, more presentations on who you are and what you study. and further discussions and presentations. So the work that they did in day 3 on discussions will then feed into their presentations on day 4. And then the climax of the week is day 5, which is about the students' life missions. So they will then prepare to give a speech fully in English for a few minutes in front of everyone about who they are and what they want to do. After having seen all of your life mission presentations and all of your major presentations, it really helps to build their ideas of what they want to do in the future. So this is an overview of how the week looks. And I think the main thing to notice here is that there's no, grammar 101, vocabulary practice, answering questions from a textbook by copying it out and writing it out in full. This isn't a teaching exactly. It's more mentoring. You see a lot of the things that we strive for in this camp is giving students a bit of experience, giving them the opportunity to talk with people who are a bit more mature, understand things about university a bit better, and it's not just about drilling into them grammar and vocab. So if you're worried about how much on-hand teaching experience you have, trust me, that won't be a problem for this program, because that's not what the aim of the program is. So just to show you a bit about some of the things that we have. So again, the speaking exercises and it's games. So it's a very fun, energetic vibe. It's English camp, not English school. And so, we get a lot of engagement. The students are getting up, they're moving around. There's a lot of energy in the classroom. We get them out of their seats, we get them talking to each other, get them talking to other students, get them talking to other interns, and so on. And some of the examples of the intern presentations, so this is from 19. It could be that you are asked to present to, say, a whole classroom. This might happen particularly in smaller venues, but more typically, I think you'll probably only really be presenting to about 3 or 4 students at a time. So a much more focused, much more intimate group where you can really target your presentation to the people in front of you. And this was about the 2020 Olympics discussion. So making lovely, colorful posters just to kind of work on their ideas, present in English some of their thoughts and opinions, and presenting in front of the whole class. And this is what the presentations look like. So you'll be standing up there alongside them as moral support as well, which is always quite nice. We also have other options as well. So one of the things that's quite nice about this camp is flexibility. So if your students are not particularly interested in whatever particular topic is kind of the main focus, there is options to do other things. So one of the popular options for us is the entrepreneurship discussions. So for instance, we have our microwave bento box named Mike, which the students had kind of come up with the idea of and wanted to kind of sell and market it to the other students of the classroom. Or the domination switch, which turns off your annoying siblings. Sometimes you just want to hold up a remote and press mute on them and get them to shut up for a bit. So there's lots of flexibility, there's lots of fun. It's a very entertaining program for us and for the kids as well. As I mentioned, we talk about world issues, and it's really amazing to see just how opinionated some of these students are and some of the amazing and great ideas that they have. Every week you see some new idea or thought that you kind of go, wow, I didn't even think about that. And you get that from lots of different students that maybe you wouldn't expect it from. And of course, the final day speech, the life mission. And one anecdote I'd like to share is that it really can be kind of whatever the students want to focus on. So one of my students from my first year in my 3rd week, she really loved music. And she also wanted to be a doctor. So she spent half of her life mission presentation talking about her aspirations to become a doctor. And she also she brought her acoustic guitar in and played a song for all of us in front of everyone. So it's really very heartwarming to see what the students kind of come up with and show, and see, all of their thoughts and opinions and ideas. And it really is the culmination of the whole 5 days of work. And the best thing is you get to do this 4 times. So if you didn't love it the first time, you will love it by the end. And similarly, at the end of the week after life mission presentations, we also have an opportunity for the mentors and the interns to all talk to the classroom as a whole, and to just kind of some closing messages for the whole classroom. So I'm going to put Matt and Gwen on the spot here, and would you like to share anything regarding the week as a whole.
And here's some of my messages from my students. One laminated sheet here. You get these at the end, and maybe some other gifts. A couple anecdotes I always share. Going back to the life mission, as Zane has been saying, this really is more of a mentorship, and helping the students find their life mission is a big part of that. And I answered a similar question on the chat during recently as well. And one anecdote I have. And by the way, like Zane said, it's so inspiring every week, seeing not just your students, but all the students and how they want to contribute to the world and their passions. It's so amazing, and not to mention their transformation of their speaking skills and confidence throughout the week. But yeah, one of my students was a first-year university student studying economics, and he was kind of disillusioned, a little jaded with his major, and we had a lot of discussions over the week with my group about our life missions. And through talking to other students, talking to other interns like Zane, Gwen, and myself, maybe he went to not just my presentation on my life mission, but Zane's or someone else at the time, and learned from them. And at the end of the week, he came to realize how much of a passion he had for education himself. And he is now almost graduated with a degree in teaching. He started over in college, and he tells me, and we stay in touch. And it was because of his experience in English camp. So the impact goes beyond the confidence in English. It's really, truly special. And then my one extra story I'll share about the ending, when many tears are had by the students, they don't want to leave. You really see how much this week has been what it's meant to them. One student or one group of students, you see this shirt Zane's wearing, and the one I've got here, wear English camp T-shirt, which is, you can wear that to the camp when you're teaching. Otherwise, our dress code for people that ask is just imagine your teachers and what they wear. But he wore the shirt every day, and his students thought that he had no other T-shirts, and they each bought him a new T-shirt and presented that at the end of the week. Another group of students, another mentor, really loved Japanese konbini snacks, which, as we all know, and if you don't know now and you come to Japan, you will know soon, are great. And they made her a backpack out of these snacks. And so it's just so nice to see, tangibly how much of an impact you have on them, whether it's a little gift or these really beautiful messages that all of us are saving and I have framed. So those are my little anecdotes to share. I don't know if Gwen or anyone else wanted to.
I guess I just have to say, aside from life missions and finding out their passions, which all of the students find something new usually, they also a lot of the time don't know a lot about American or British universities or universities. They're not aware of how they work, and we do university presentations too. A lot of them get really inspired, and I had a student who started out really nervous about speaking English, didn't know anything about foreign universities, and at the end of the camp he was 100% sure that he was going to either study abroad or be an international student at an American university. So that was really, really cool to see, and very inspiring for me too.
Yeah, well, thank you both for your additions. So just kind of continue on with the presentation then. Now is kind of one of the most important parts of the info session. What is included? So all of your subsidies and things, the money side, right? So here we go. So the round trip airfare with limitations and procedures. So $500 deposit at the time of purchase, as Matt has already mentioned. This is paid directly to the travel agency via credit card or debit card, and then a $100 onboarding fee is deducted. So this helps just to cover pre-training, vetting, and background checks, etc., and so on. And then $400 of your deposit is returned within 45 days of completion of the program. Housing. So as we mentioned, you first arrive in a hostel in Asakusa, and then you move into your housing on Sunday. And this will typically be a shared housing. So this is where one of our partners, Common Up Housing, is kind of biggest role is. Shared housing is a little bit like a dorm room style, in that you'll typically have maybe a handful of other interns or other Japanese working professionals. You'll each have your own individual rooms, but you'll share amenities. So like a living room space or a kitchen space, and you'll have, a handful of toilets and bathrooms and shower spaces, so you can all kind of live in the area. If you intend to travel outside of Tokyo or Kansai, mostly, Kanto or Kansai, you'll possibly be staying in a homestay. So this is where you stay with a Japanese family, and this will be a family of one of the students from the program for that week. So in my example, I had a homestay not with a student, but with the staff of the English camp for that week. And it was a wonderful experience, being with a Japanese family, staying in their home. The mum made bento lunches for me every day. I'd come home and I'd play Smash Brothers with the kids. We went out for sushi one evening. It was just a wonderful experience. And also other housing options are available as well. So apartments or hotels and guest houses may be utilized. These aren't quite as common though. And additional fees are required if you want to specifically live in an individual apartment on yourself. We also provide weekly food subsidies. So that is 2,300 yen per weekday. And I think this is something which is a bit of a misconception on how expensive food is in Japan, especially in Tokyo. And Matt can definitely agree with this. Actually, it's not bad. You can live reasonably well off of convenience store food. I know that sounds like awful, but trust me, the food in the convenience stores, actually decent, actually pretty good. And depending on how much you want to splash out on food, Matt and I are big foodies, so we always bring in a bit of extra money from our savings and just kind of, spend a bit more on some extra ramen or an extra large size portion of rice and so on. Transportation to and from class and venue and additional required travel is also covered. So this won't be based off of like receipts or anything awkward like that, but this is something that we kind of calculate depending on where you are, how much the cost of, say, the trains will be from where you are staying to the venue itself. If we have you traveling, say, from Tokyo to Sapporo, and you have to take a flight, of course, we'll cover that for you. You don't have to pay for that, and so on. And there's also some optional field trips as well and program retreats. So language classes, after-school activities are partially subsidized by the program. So the way that it's worked in previous years is that you'll typically have 2, which are paid for by the program, and then after that, you may have to pay out of pocket. But of course, nothing stops you from being able to do these things on your own as well. If you and your friends suddenly want to go to Disney World Sea, then feel free to do that. There's no commitment to the program outside of the hours that you're teaching with your students. And of course, we have health and accident insurance, which will have to be updated regarding COVID situation. And the cultural experience of a lifetime. It's a cheesy line, but it's there for a reason. So I think, Matt, if you could talk a bit more about the cost of the airfare, in particular, I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yep, yeah, and great job, Zane, because we've been handling the questions well, thanks to Gwen too, who often jumps in and gets it before me. So a couple questions on the airfare that came up. So, yeah, 1,600 USD is the limit. So round trip from your home or your university airport to Tokyo and back, because that's where the training is. And we have our final farewell dinner in Tokyo at the end as well, that last weekend. But a few of you asked, can you travel before and after? Of course. In fact, we encourage it. And Gwen said that in the chat as well. You can arrive a week or 2 early, explore Japan, and quite frankly, it's a great idea if you have the means to do so, because 5 weeks goes by really fast, especially since that's only 5 weekends. However, we do not cover housing up until July 10th, for example. So you're on your own. However, when you're working with our travel agency to get your ticket, you can book that flight earlier or stay later. Someone asked, can we stop over in another country? For example, in the past, I stopped over in Hong Kong on the way. Yes, but we reduced that limit to 1,000 USD. We really are encouraging people to go to Japan first.
A slight caveat to that, for instance, if your direct flight would cost more than $1,600 US, and the agency suggests that you have a short stopover, so not like a week, but more like, 2 hours, then that will not reduce the cost down to $1,000. So don't worry about that.
Yeah, thank you, Zane. Yeah, that's always gets confusing too with terminology, layover, stopover, whatever it is. Basically, get your flight to Japan and back, and explore Japan first is what we highly recommend. And of course, our program sponsor is encouraging, because your time does really fly during the summer. Another question was about housing, and are you in the same housing the entire program? Zane kind of got into this. It depends on the venue. So Zane talked about his lovely experience doing a homestay. If you get accepted to the program and you really want to do a homestay, please put your preference as, or you're okay with going to rural locations, smaller cities. Don't be based in want to be based in Tokyo or Osaka the whole time, because there are almost zero homestays there. Otherwise, it really depends on venue. And, the majority of our interns in Tokyo stay in share housing. So, right, so it sounds like you share the amenities, you have your own room. But the other options are utilized. So it is venue to venue, and another reason why we love our interns to be flexible and adaptable, because you will be if you're changing venues each week, which not everyone does, by the way. Someone asked about this. Well, the common experience is probably 2 or 3 weeks in one of our home bases. So Tokyo, Osaka, Nagoya, Yokohama, and then maybe 1 or 2 weeks at another venue. And so, yeah, you might switch housing multiple times throughout the summer, because it's based on venue. As far as other questions, someone asked about traveling with the same group the whole program. I answered it briefly. Basically, some venues don't need the full 10 members of the group. So the groups may get split up if there's 2 smaller. So maybe you're down in the southern parts of Japan and 5 of your group is in Fukuoka, while 5 of your group is in Hiroshima. So you do get split, but you're never alone, of course. Oftentimes, Zane mentioned this too, you're with another group at the venue. For example, our Tokyo venue has sometimes have upwards of 100 interns there and 500 Japanese students across multiple floors. So you're with multiple groups in that situation. Let's see, as far as other questions, there was just one about the visa. So yeah, it's a tourist visa. It's unpaid subsidized internship. You come in on a tourist visa. You have 90 days. That is the case for most countries. Some citizenships, some countries have a different situation for the tourist visa, and we work with everyone on an individual basis for that. So if you find out your country, you don't have the 90-day tourist visa, you talk with us, we'll work it out with you. I think I actually just covered all the questions. Gwen, if you saw one that I missed, it's important to bring up.
Nope, I think we got everything. If we forgot something, then feel free to chime in.
And yeah, Nadja just asked something. So yeah, essentially, so when you're working with the travel agency, and let's say your flight is, let's just say it's $1,530 US. And you've booked the flight, you've got it from your home to Tokyo and back, and the travel agency says, okay, we're confirming with coming out. We confirm, we're saying they're good to go. Then you just pay the $500 US to the travel agency, and we pay the remainder of the ticket, and that's it. And then at the end of the program, within the 45 days, you'll get 400 of that back. The only reason you wouldn't get all 400 of that back, if you do damage to your housing, please don't, and things like that. If we also have the safety deposit, as you can imagine, to make sure that people don't just fly to Japan and bail on the program and get a free trip to Japan. So that's all you need to pay there, Nadja. And to go the tourist visa, yep. If US, UK, Canada, I believe they're all no-cost tourist visa, but some countries do. Just email us during the onboarding process. We'll work with you. And the travel agency, yeah, we really highly encourage you to use our travel agency. It's part of the process, makes it much easier for us administrative-wise, and we cover the cost. And they're really great also. Some people have asked they wanted to use miles. Yeah, that's fine, but then we're not going to get your ticket. So you would just do that your own. So just, the travel agency is great. And as opposed to online, I think it's via email with our travel agency. They have phone too. They're based in LA and Japan. If I'm paying an agent all of our interns work with the same travel agency and so the conversion of currency is fine. Anything else? Caroline just popped in a question, traveling there with a family member. Yes, obviously that family member won't be covered, but this is a well-known travel agency, so totally fine. It's up to you guys on that. But of course they'd be paying their own way. And but of course we encourage people to travel with family or friends before, and then just say bye when you start the program, because then you're going to get really busy. Anything else? I think I've covered it all, and Zane did a great job covering that slide too. So
yeah, feel free to send more questions in now if you're particularly about travel or subsidies or anything along those lines.
Yeah, I think we're good. And if they come in, I'll try to answer them too. Thanks, Zane.
Great. All right. Well, almost towards the end of our presentation now. Thank you all for your patience throughout this. It's a lot of information, so thank you for sitting there and listening to us. But now some more fun. So outside of the classroom is the cultural experiences and the activities. So here we have some pictures of matsuris or festivals. So in the summer, there's loads of festivals going on all the time. Always lots of firework displays and so on. You can visit an onsen or a bathhouse, which is more fun than it sounds. I know at first you might be a bit skeptical about, getting naked in front of a bunch of strangers, but I promise it's not that bad. Here's one of the pictures from our cooking classes that we host as well. And this is a picture from Hakone, so the retreat that we have at the end of the training week, just before your first day of actual being in the classroom. It's a lovely place, again, very well known for its onsens, and there's lots of excursions and activities that we can do then as well. Some more of the activities that go on throughout the week. So the tea ceremony that we have, calligraphy lessons, and here we just more other pictures of people just going out, doing some traveling on their own. Maybe they do some hiking or go on a boat ride and so on. We also have language classes, and an exchange that we have every year is with Tokyo University. So these are pictures from previous years of just getting to have a cultural exchange with us as international students or recent graduates, and with Japanese students in Tokyo University themselves. And just here's some more pictures of people having nice fun out throughout the whole program. And one of the things that we also like to do through the program is share your stories through social media, through Instagram, through Twitter, through Facebook. It really does help make everything just a bit more fun if we're all sharing it together. So just some more pictures, a visit to the beach, or a nice barbecue in the middle of the night. And so yeah, so this is a picture of one of the venues that hosted the English camp a few years ago. And this was a slightly smaller venue. So you can see maybe there's only a handful of interns throughout the crowd. Here is a slightly bigger classroom. So, your range could be anywhere from potentially 20 students in the classroom to maybe 70 students in the classroom. And, the whole classroom really is just a very big welcoming feel for everyone involved. So this was the 2015 program with Matt. If you can just about make him out there, he's somewhere in the picture. Back when there were only about 11 people. And then in 2016, it expanded. So I think I counted about 48 people or so, interns. Then 2017, it kind of exploded a bit more, getting up to about 100 or so, I think. And then in 2018, reaching about 200 or so. See if you can spot me real quick before I change the slide. I'm there kind of in the middle. And then in 2019, this is when we grew quite large to, hitting 200 or a bit more. And so we split into two halves. And this is where we introduced Group A and Group B. So that was 2019. And then 2021, you, maybe, hopefully, we'll see. And of course, if you really love the camp that much, like myself, Matt, Gwen, and Christy did, you can always return. And the returning interns are a really big part of how we help pass the torch down, how we train through with the new group of interns, how we help organize and run, how we do these info sessions, and so on. So, if these people were so impacted by the program to, want to come back and continue working, maybe the program is something good. So thank you for sitting through this 50-minute long presentation. Thank you all for all of your questions. We'll still have an open Q&A now, and don't forget to apply. Just apply right now. Just at the end of this program, just send it in. Just do it. Just go through it.
All right. Thanks, Zane. Yeah, the classic finish of just do it now, or at least before November 30th, because it helps us too, especially this year with delays. And we love seeing enthusiastic people that apply early. So for those of you heading out, thanks for attending. We'll answer some questions, as Zane said. So Luis had one about disclaimers, important things people should be aware of before applying. Luis says, for instance, if you don't accept people of a certain age, people with tattoos, with children, no, that's all fine. As far as tattoos, of course, that's one of the questions we always get and talk about during training and the onboarding process of how that's affected, as it's a bit of a taboo culture in Japan. For example, Zane talked about onsen, the hot springs. A lot of those, unfortunately, you cannot get into with a tattoo. Luckily, we've had many interns in the past with tattoos to compile a list of onsen bathhouses that you can go to with tattoos. Otherwise, totally fine. Venue to venue, we also have different restrictions. Maybe some venues may say, we'd rather you not wear a t-shirt, we'd rather you dress up nicer with a collared shirt. And that could be the same with tattoos. If you had one on your forearm, for example, they might ask, hey, could you wear a long sleeve t-shirt? Again, that varies from venue to venue. Age, like I mentioned before, all the way from freshmen to PhD grads to I'm 30 years old. We want a wide variety of people with different life experiences, different perspectives. And we think that's great to have, Zane talking about how everyone returns and we have this strong community, as you hopefully all can tell. It's important for everyone to learn from interns too. And we think it's a great network we have, and that it only makes it stronger by having different age groups, different types of people. So hopefully that answered that. And
on a similar-ish note, kind of related but really not, people with allergies or food requirements or dietary requirements. So if you're maybe worried about, will there be halal meat in Japan, for instance, or I'm vegan, is that okay? We built up quite a database of helpful apps, links to particular restaurants or places in Tokyo and around Japan. I eat halal food, so I worked really hard over the last few years to just build up a database of all the halal places around Japan. So if you're worried about these sorts of things, we really help work to make that easy for you. Yeah.
Thank you, Zane. That's great. And got more questions here. Okay, so Francine asked about the TEFL certification. Does it increase your chances? First of all, just a reminder, it's not required at all. And why we do say can be an asset on the website is because, of course, if you get a TEFL certificate or you have one or a TESOL or any of the ESL teaching certificates, it shows that you have a strong desire to teach English. And quite frankly, those skills do really help. Like Zane said, our training's super thorough. You don't have to have teaching experience. But if you do have a certificate, it does show that you have passion and not necessarily want to pursue it as a career, but want to engage in these types of opportunities. And being a company that runs ESL programs, we often have opportunities to teach outside of this too. Moving on here, since the questions are coming in, Caroline about LGBTQ, and I think we can have interns talk about this during training as well. For you and my friends, I've heard generally good experiences, and like any country, you might want to, if you are really worried and do some research, you might want to stick to a bigger city like Tokyo and Osaka, more progressive cities. But again, you can talk about that with us during the onboarding process, and if that affects your housing and whatnot, we want to make sure everyone's super comfortable with their situation. That's so important for us. Maya, you asked about the rolling applications. So yeah, like Zane said, apply now. Basically, when it comes to the deadline, Zane and I and Gwen and others will be going from number 1 of the application all the way down to those who applied before midnight PST on Pacific Standard Time on December 1st. So everyone's considered in the same phase. The only difference is that we literally read them going down the list. However, if we like your application, doesn't make a difference if you're first or 500, we're going to give you that interview slot. We if I may speak on our behalf, we put a lot of effort into the application process and the interview process, and that's super important to us to talk to as many people as we can. Because if you're doing a program facilitating English, the interview is important, right? Because we're having a conversation. So, let's keep going here. What's the weather like over there, Vanya? Well, actually, the summer in Japan is infamously quite hot and humid. And so, one thing I always say is, if you're wearing your, collared shirt and pants to work, bring a pair of shorts and a tank top for after, because it's still going to be really hot. But we think that's just a small thing to tolerate for the greater good of the program. Jess asked about quarantine. That in these kind of uncertain times, that could be a situation if we deem it to be safe, and our team in Japan deems it to be safe, and WHO and embassies and Ministry of Health, whatnot, that we could do a quarantine and during training week, for example. But we would cover that. We would provide that. But if it's not safe, we just won't do the program. Denise, there'll be another info session. There, you can check on our website. There's another one at 6 p.m. Pacific time today. We'll be back, and we've been doing them every Friday at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Pacific time. So yeah, please come. And if, for those of you wondering, it's essentially the same every time. Of course, the difference would be any questions that come up. Francine, practicing Catholic for Sunday Mass conflicts. We'll work with you individually on that. If anything, as Zane said, you travel on Sunday. For example, I think he mentioned going from Tokyo to Sapporo. You're taking a flight on Sunday to transfer venues. We'll work with you on that. And if we can't, then you can stay in one place if that's better for your experience. Maybe Tokyo would be best. So we work with everyone.
Yeah. On that note, I do remember a girl in 2018 who was quite a very practicing Jewish, and so she wouldn't travel on the Sabbath, for instance. And so, she made it work. She, was strict kosher, and she managed to find ways to make sure everything worked smoothly. And I think also, as a whole, we helped to make that work nicely.
Yes, thanks, Zane. Archie, the interviews are over Zoom. Yep, they're about 30 minutes each, one with us. And if you pass our interview, you talk with the team in Japan, all in English, of course, different questions. Oh, Christy, thank you for jumping in to cover Gwen on the questions. Yeah, Christy, Google Hangout we used before. Now we've switched over to Zoom. Can we go out on the weekends on your own? Yeah, outside of 9:30 to 5:30, you're on your own. You're happy to do whatever you'd like. We have these program-sponsored events, but they're all optional. As you can tell from Zane and I and our love for the community of this program, we also do unofficial events after school, after class, and invite. We want to make sure everyone's having a great experience. Challenges during the program, maybe Zane can talk as well, Barry. My biggest challenge, maybe not something someone would expect initially, was I wanted to do as much as possible in my 5 weeks as I could, exploring as much as possible. And quite frankly, that can be exhausting. And so my recommendation to everyone is always get your rest, always take time for your health, physical and mental, because teaching can be draining. And every day, you can tell Zane and I, we have this positive energy we love, and that's what we bring to the classroom, but that takes a lot out of you. It can be draining. It's so rewarding, but it can be draining. So definitely that's my biggest recommendation. Zane, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, on a similar note, just the amount of energy that you really need to have in the camp the whole way through, it does get very tiring. I remember previous years us talking about the kind of 3rd week slump. So once you've had that first week of training, 2 weeks of the program, you're on your 3rd week, it's getting a bit tired now, maybe you're getting a little bit homesick or all these sorts of things, it can take quite a lot out of you mentally.
Yeah. Lily asked, what can you expect during the interview? Like I said, 2 different interviews. If you pass the first, you talk with our team in Japan and we ask different questions. I'll throw out some examples. We'll of course talk about your application and what you wrote there, since we read those thoroughly. But we also might ask some scenario-based questions. For example, here's a freebie for y'all. If you have a group of 4 students and 3 of them are active in the discussion and participating in all the activities and seem like they're having a great time, but one is particularly quiet for whatever reason, how would you handle that situation? And how would you handle the opposite if 3 were quiet and 1 was taking up all the verbal space? Scenario-based questions like that about would happen in the classroom. Sihan, can you drive in Japan if you have an international license? In the program, there's not a lot of time to do some driving. And quite frankly, the public transportation is incredible. So I'd never drive. What else we got? MZ, topic of mental health, what kind of support is there? So we had last year counselors that were available weekly for in-person and Zoom sessions, trained medical professionals, mental health counselors that we just implemented last year, and we think that's a great resource to use. They speak, of course, English and have lots of experiences. Our 2 last year were college, worked in the college environment. Yeah, Juliana, no worries. So if the COVID situation continues as is, of course, the program may be not possible to happen. And we'll just keep everyone updated on the newsletter on our website throughout the process, because health and safety obviously will come first. I miss anything, Zane? You see, or do you have anything to add?
Everything, I think. So I think we're closing up on the hour now. So thank you all for coming to the info session. We hope to see your application in today. Do it right now. Just go for it. Send it right in. If you have any other questions, feel free, if you like, to attend the other info sessions that we have. It will basically be exactly the same, so feel free to just pop in and out if you want to. And here is my email address. If you want to send me a question, it's disappearing, so I might send that again.
Yeah, mine's there too. Just our names at Coming Out Japan.
Yep, Zane at Coming Out Japan, Matt at Coming Out Japan, or Gwen at Coming Out Japan. And thank you. Apply right now.
Apply right now. Let us know if you have any questions via email as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you, Christy, answering the questions too.
Yeah, I tried. Gwen's really good at this. I was too slow.
Yeah, she's fast.
Thanks, guys. I'll catch you later. Bye.
See you. Nice to see you. Then there were